AITA for refusing to pay my best friend for showering and doing laundry at her place due to unforeseen circumstances. She even asked me to pay for accidentally connecting to her Wi-Fi. I have been best friends with this girl for almost 4 years now. At least, I thought we were best friends. Over the years, there have been a lot of small issues, most of them revolving around money. I never really made a big deal about it because I hate conflict. I am the kind of person who would rather eat a loss than argue, especially with someone I care about. But now I am sitting here questioning the entire friendship because of something that just happened, and I honestly need to get this off my chest. During our friendship, it became kind of a pattern. We would go out for coffee, and if I said I did not have the money for it, she would quickly jump in and say, "Oh no, I got this," insisting she wanted to treat me. Other times she would suggest we grab breakfast somewhere, and if I hesitated because I was broke that week, she would immediately offer to pay. I always appreciated it, and I never asked or expected her to do it. It always seemed like something she genuinely wanted to do. It would also happen when we went out with her boyfriend. Sometimes he would insist on covering the bill for everyone. For example, we would all go out to dinner, and he would say he would pay for everyone's meals. Then my fiancée, not wanting to feel like we were taking advantage, would step in and say no, let us pay for our own meals. Then her boyfriend would push back and say, no, he insisted. So at the end of the night, it would seem like everything was good. But then, like clockwork, the next day I would get a text from my friend. The kind of text that makes your stomach drop. She would send a detailed message about how much we owed them for our portion. Even though they had insisted on paying the night before, even though it seemed like a gift in the moment, it always came back to money. And every time it happened, I swallowed my pride, pulled out my wallet, and paid without saying anything. I avoided conflict at all costs because the friendship mattered to me. Meanwhile, on our side, whenever we bought them things, whether it was a meal, coffee, or even hosting them at our home, we never once asked for money in return. Not once. We just thought that is what friends do. You help each other out without keeping score. Fast forward to about a month ago. There was an issue at their place. They had no water for several days, and they were desperate. They reached out and asked if they could come over to shower. Of course, we said yes. No hesitation. We even had to switch on our geyser, which had been off because we were trying to save electricity and money. But we did not say a word about the cost. We just wanted to help our friends in a difficult time. They came over, showered, used our bathroom, our towels, our hot water, and then left. No drama, no money talk, no expectations. That is how I thought real friendship worked. Now, here is where it gets really painful. Recently, we have been going through a rough patch ourselves. We have been without electricity for over a week. It has been extremely stressful and difficult, especially because we do not have many people we can lean on around here. So I reached out to my best friend, the same one we had helped not so long ago, and asked if we could come over just to do a load of laundry and take a shower. She said it was fine. We went over, did our laundry, took a quick shower, thanked them profusely, and left. Later, when we asked if we could come by again to do another load and shower, her response was like a punch in the gut. She told me, word for word, that we could, but we would have to pay them at the end of the month for the utilities we were using. I was stunned. It was not a joke. She was completely serious. I could not believe it. After everything we had done for them, without ever asking for a cent, she was now treating us like we were burdening them for basic human kindness. It made me realize that in her mind, every favor came with a price tag. Nothing was ever freely given. At that point, I decided we were not going to go back. I was not about to get handed some ridiculous bill at the end of the month for one shower and a load of laundry. I felt completely betrayed. We have gone without clean clothes. We have gone without a proper shower. All because I cannot bring myself to look at someone who calls me her best friend and see just a ledger of transactions instead of real love and care. And the thing that cuts the deepest is that I know, without hesitation, if the roles were reversed, we would have helped them again. And again. And again. No questions asked. No expectation of payment. Just because that is what you do for the people you care about. I keep running through it all in my head. Every little moment where I thought we were being friends, and now I realize maybe I was just a convenience. Someone to split costs with. Someone to keep tabs on. I feel stupid for not seeing it sooner. For always paying back those offers that were never genuine gifts. Now I am sitting here wondering if I am the bad person for refusing to pay them. For refusing to play into this weird transactional version of friendship she seems to think is normal. Part of me wonders if I should have just sucked it up again, paid whatever bill she thought we owed, and kept the peace. But a bigger part of me is done pretending that this is okay. Am I the asshole? Update 1. I thought that would be the end of it. I thought after the whole shower and laundry situation that things would quietly fizzle out. I accepted that some friendships are not what you thought they were, and even though it hurt, I was ready to move on. I told myself that not every loss is a loss, and that some people reveal their true colors when life gets uncomfortable. A few weeks went by. No contact. No apologies. No attempts to talk things out. Just radio silence. And honestly, that was fine with me. I was tired of feeling like a transaction instead of a friend. I was tired of keeping score in a relationship that was supposed to be about care and trust. One Saturday morning, I decided to visit the local farmers market. It is a cute little spot in town where local vendors sell fresh produce, homemade crafts, and sometimes you just go there to feel human again. It was a nice day, sunny and warm, and I thought it would be good for my mental health to get out of the house for a bit. As luck would have it, when I arrived and parked on the street near the market, I noticed her car immediately. She was there too. I froze for a second, debating whether to just turn around and find another place to park, but before I could even make a decision, she spotted me and quickly waved me over. She seemed cheerful, completely normal, like none of the weirdness from the past month had happened at all. She called out that there was always space next to her house, just down the block, and said I could park there if I wanted because it was closer and safer. It sounded like a nice gesture, an olive branch, and in that moment, I told myself that maybe I had been too harsh. Maybe they were just going through a tough time when all of that had happened. Maybe this was her way of trying to mend the gap without actually having to say it out loud. So I thanked her, drove a little further down, and parked near her house. It was a quiet spot, safe, and I figured it was no big deal. I locked up my car and walked back toward the market. We ended up strolling through the stalls together. We laughed at the ridiculous sizes of some of the vegetables, sampled some homemade jams, and for a little while, it felt easy again. It felt like the friendship I thought we had. I lowered my guard. I smiled without forcing it. I started to believe that maybe people really can come back from bad moments. We parted ways with a casual wave and a promise to catch up again soon. I went home that day feeling lighter. Hopeful. Nostalgic, even, for the years when things were simple between us. Then the next morning came. I woke up to another message from her. Another one of those messages that I had come to dread. I opened it, expecting something like a funny meme or maybe a link to a cute farmer's market event. But no. It was a bill. An actual itemized message telling me that since I had used her private parking space, I now owed her $5. $5 for leaving my car there for 2 hours. She even justified it by saying that it was private property, and with utility bills and property taxes going up, it was only fair that people contributed if they used her resources. I sat there staring at my phone, the anger slowly creeping up my spine. $5. $5 for a friendly gesture she herself had offered, in a moment where I had not even asked for anything. I did not even reply. I did not have the energy. What was there to say at this point that would not sound completely absurd? I realized, in that moment, that there was no miscommunication. No misunderstanding. This was not about tough times or bad moods. This was about who she was, deep down. Someone who puts a price on every tiny gesture, every favor, every second of shared space. I fell silent. I did not respond, did not acknowledge the message, did not argue. What was the point? There was nothing left to salvage here. This was not a friendship built on mutual respect, kindness, or generosity. This was a constant accounting of debts and favors, a never-ending balance sheet where every interaction came with a hidden cost. This is no longer a friendship, this is some kind of parody of it. Update 2. After the absurd parking space bill, I knew I needed to distance myself from her. There was no other way. I did not announce it. I did not confront her. I did not give her a dramatic farewell speech or type out a long message explaining all the ways she had hurt me. I just stopped reaching out. I stopped making plans, stopped sending memes, stopped checking in. I let the silence grow between us, like a thick, heavy fog rolling in, slowly erasing what once had been a clear, open road of friendship. I thought, if I just stayed out of her orbit, if I politely, quietly kept my distance, it would all fade away naturally. No explosions, no arguments, just a slow, merciful drifting apart. I wanted peace, not another exhausting situation where every smile hit a price tag. But life in a small town does not let you disappear so easily. There are only so many cafes where you can sit and pretend to be invisible. Only so many little shops and markets you can walk through without bumping into someone you would rather forget. Everyone's lives brush up against each other like branches tangled in the same too small garden. No matter how much I tried to steer clear, some collisions were unavoidable. A couple of weeks later, my fiancée and I decided to grab a quick coffee at one of the small local cafes we used to love. It was not a big, orchestrated outing. It was one of those casual, unplanned moments where the air feels too heavy inside the house and you just need to be somewhere else, somewhere that smells like fresh coffee beans and homemade pastries, somewhere you can pretend that things are simple again. We wanted to breathe, to laugh about silly things, to remind ourselves that life was bigger than the disappointment of losing people you once called friends. We chose a table by the window, tucked into the corner, ordered our drinks, and for a little while, it felt almost normal. We talked about nothing important, shared quiet jokes, stared out at the sleepy street lined with cars and bicycles and overflowing flower pots. I let myself relax, let my shoulders drop, let my mind wander to lighter places. That was when I saw them. Her and her boyfriend, sitting at a table just across the room, so close I could hear the clink of their cutlery. I felt a jolt in my chest, a tightening that immediately made me sit a little straighter, a little stiffer. It was too late to get up and leave without making a scene. Too late to pretend I had not seen them. So I stayed seated, my hands wrapped tightly around my coffee cup, forcing myself to keep my gaze steady, my conversation flowing. We did not acknowledge each other. No waves, no awkward smiles of recognition, no nods across the room. Just silence. It was a strange kind of tension, not loud or aggressive, but a heavy, invisible wall standing between our two tables. Two former friends, sitting just feet apart, pretending we had nothing to say, pretending that we had never shared late-night talks, laughter, inside jokes, favors freely given. It was like watching a bridge rot away until all that remained were two lonely ends dangling above an uncrossable river. After about an hour, we finished our coffee. We lingered a little longer, reluctant to leave the warm smell of roasted beans and freshly baked scones, but eventually, we stood up, smiled at the barista, and headed home. I told myself it was fine. That was just how it would be now. We would cross paths, we would not speak, and life would go on. I even dared to feel a tiny flicker of hope that maybe, just maybe, I could truly detach myself from her drama, even if fate and geography occasionally threw us into the same room. We got home, curled up on the couch, picked a random movie, and let the day roll on, simple and unremarkable. For the first time in a long time, I felt like I could breathe again. Then the next morning, my phone buzzed. I knew it before I even looked. I felt it like a cold hand gripping my heart. The inevitable message had arrived. She wrote to tell me that my fiancé had forgotten his jacket at the cafe. She explained that they had spotted it after we left, and they had picked it up so it would not get lost. She said I could come by and pick it up. It sounded normal, innocent, even helpful. It was the kind of thing you expect friends, or even just decent acquaintances, to do without a second thought. I hesitated. Part of me wanted to reply with a simple thank you and ask her to leave it at the cafe for me to pick up later. Part of me did not want to set foot on their property ever again. But another part of me, tired of dragging everything out, decided to just get it over with. A clean cut, one last visit, and I could finally move on. I drove to their house, a familiar route my car could probably have taken blindfolded. As I pulled up to the curb, my stomach twisted into a tight, anxious knot. The house looked the same, the garden still half wild, the same crooked mailbox, the same sun-faded welcome mat. It was like nothing had changed on the outside, even though everything inside me had shifted beyond recognition. She opened the door with a smile that was just a little too bright, holding the jacket in her hand like a prize. I stepped forward, took the jacket, feeling the rough fabric under my fingers, feeling the weight of everything that had passed between us settle heavily on my shoulders. And then, almost as if she could not resist slipping in one last sting, she said it. She said that since I had sat in their yard for a while the day before and had automatically connected to their Wi-Fi, I owed them $3 for using their internet. For a moment, time seemed to freeze. I stood there, the jacket clutched to my chest like armor, staring at her smiling face, trying to process the sheer pettiness of what I was hearing. It was so absurd that for a second I wondered if I had misheard her. $3. For Wi-Fi. That I had not even consciously used. It must have been an old connection, from months ago, when we were still friends and sharing a password had been a symbol of trust, not a secret invoice. I felt the laughter bubbling up in my throat, sharp and hysterical. I felt tears stinging the backs of my eyes. I wanted to laugh until I collapsed or cry until there was nothing left inside me. It was such a small amount of money, but it represented something so much larger, something broken and sad and irreparable. I thought about all the times I had cooked meals for them without asking for anything in return. All the times we had hosted them, driven them around, invited them into our home, paid for coffees and pizzas and never, not once, kept score. I thought about how many times I had believed that friendship meant giving without expecting, helping without charging, loving without measuring. And here I was, standing on her porch, being charged $3 for the simple, automatic act of a phone reconnecting to an old Wi-Fi network. I knew then, with a kind of cold, bitter clarity, that I could not argue with her. There was no point. She did not see the loss. She did not see what she had turned into. To her, it was all just business as usual. Another line item in a friendship ledger that had long ago stopped being about love or loyalty. I looked her in the eye, kept my voice calm even though every nerve in my body was vibrating with anger and sadness, and said, I do not owe you anything. Then, without another word, without a glance back, I turned around and walked away, clutching the jacket like a tattered relic of a friendship that no longer existed. Even if it sounded rude, I could not play their economic friendship anymore. Update 3. About a month after the jacket and Wi-Fi debacle, after I had mentally closed the door on whatever we used to have, she reached out. It was unexpected, to say the least. I had not heard a single word from her since the day I walked off her porch without looking back. I thought the silence between us had finally solidified into something permanent. I thought we had both moved on, resigned to our quiet, mutual exile from each other's lives. But one morning, I woke up to a long text from her. Not one of those clipped, exhausting payment demands, but an actual message written with emotion and weight. She said she had been thinking about everything that had happened, that she felt like we had drifted apart, and that it was making her incredibly sad. She said she wanted to put things in their place, her words carefully chosen, like she was trying to create a bridge without knowing if I would meet her halfway. I stared at the message for a long time. My first instinct was to ignore it. To protect myself. To avoid reopening wounds that had barely started to heal. But something about the tone of her message was different this time. Less defensive. Less transactional. It sounded real. Vulnerable, even. We agreed to meet at a small cafe, neutral territory, a cozy little spot with chipped teacups and lopsided chairs where we had once shared laughter without a price tag attached. I went there without much expectation. I promised myself that I would listen, but I would not beg for anything. If it turned into another exhausting accounting session, I would leave and that would be the true end of it. From the moment I walked in, the air between us was tense. Not angry, not cold, but heavy, like two people carrying too many unspoken words between them. She was already there, sitting at a small corner table with her boyfriend beside her, both of them looking a little nervous, a little uncertain. I sat down, my heart pounding harder than it should have for a simple conversation between old friends. The words came slowly at first, like trying to untangle a knot that had been pulled too tight for too long. She explained that in her family, it had always been customary to pay each other for everything, even the tiniest things. If someone cooked dinner, the others would chip in for groceries. If someone stayed over, they would offer money for water or electricity. She said that for her, it was not about greed or distrust. It was about respect. About honesty. About never putting anyone in the position of feeling used or taken advantage of. Her boyfriend nodded along, his voice steady as he admitted that they both shared that fear. That anxiety about being seen as freeloaders or burdens. It was not about me, he said. It was about old habits and old scars, deeper than either of them had ever realized. I listened carefully, feeling the anger inside me soften but not completely disappear. When it was my turn to speak, I told her that for me, true friendship was about selflessness. About helping each other in difficult moments without keeping score. That every time she had sent me a bill for something small, every time she had turned a moment of kindness into a transaction, I had felt like a customer instead of a friend. I told her that it made me question my place in her life, made me wonder if she saw me as someone she loved or just someone she tolerated until it was time to settle up. We talked for hours, untangling years of misunderstandings and mismatched expectations. There were tears, real ones, the kind you do not wipe away because you are too busy speaking truths you had buried for too long. At moments it was raw and painful, exposing old wounds we had both hidden behind politeness and avoidance. But it was also strangely healing. For the first time in a long time, we really heard each other. Not just listened, but heard. The fear behind her actions. The hurt behind mine. We agreed that if we wanted this friendship to survive, we needed to set a new foundation. We would establish a simple rule: if one of us wanted to pay for something for the other, we would be clear about it. No assumptions, no awkward silences, no passive-aggressive texts the next day. Just honesty. Either say, "This is my gift," or say, "I would appreciate if you could cover your share." Straightforward. Open. Human. From that moment on, everything changed. There were no more strange coffee or Wi-Fi bills arriving like miniature grenades in my inbox. There were no more tight-lipped smiles hiding quiet resentment. Instead, there was clarity. Respect. Understanding. She still sometimes offers to pay for something when we go out, but now she says it plainly. She smiles and says, "This is my treat, do not worry about it." Other times, if it is a bigger expense, she says, "You can give me some of it later if it is convenient for you." No guilt. No demands. No unspoken strings. And I, in turn, have learned to communicate better too. To say when I am uncomfortable. To say when I cannot afford something without feeling ashamed. To draw boundaries without feeling like I am punishing someone. I learned that it is not weakness to tell someone what you need. Our friendship is not perfect. No relationship ever is. But it is real now. Rooted in truth instead of silent resentment. Built on honesty instead of invisible debts. And every time we sit across from each other now, laughing over coffee or sharing a meal, it feels lighter. Easier. Freer. I am glad we did not give up. I am glad we did not let unspoken expectations and misunderstood intentions tear apart something worth fighting for. Because now, after all the hurt and the awkwardness and the growing pains, we have something stronger, something better, something that feels like true friendship at last.